The AIDS crisis of the early 1980s was also a moment in time when these individuals joined together to demand attention be brought to their community and a disease that was threatening their right to exist.
I am here because the FDA is holding up drugs that are available for people, and people are dying. Since we have been here today, 3 people have died. A person is dying every half hour.
Organizations such as the Gay Men's Health Crisis and AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power or ACT UP worked tirelessly to bring attention to the disease, fight for rights to experimental medications, raise money for AIDS research, and demand action from political entities.
In the 80s and even now, people associate, or communities associate, HIV/AIDS as the gay man's disease. And so if you have a diagnosis of HIV/AIDS, it automatically associates you with activity with an individual who's of the same sex. And that still stands today in some communities and some belief systems, that if you're positive, you've had some activity with a same gender or had a same gender relationship.
Slowly, people who previously believed that HIV/AIDS was a disease that only affected gay men and intravenous drug users began to realize that anyone could become infected with HIV. However, ignorance about transmission and prejudice towards those carrying HIV still remained.
Ryan White says he gets very lonely. He misses his friends. The 13-year-old was banned from school after it was found he was suffering from AIDS. And now his school have said they never want him back in class.
Defining moment for me, I was in high school when Ryan White, who's the whole Ryan White Act, the Ryan White Care Act, is what really helped fund treatment to HIV across the nation. He and his mother and their family did an amazing job of really trying to fight the school system. They worked with legislators, got a lot of funding for those living with HIV. And Ryan White would have been only 2 years older than me.
When Jeannie White was told her son had AIDS, doctors gave him 6 months to live. That was in 1984.
So when we look back historically at disease, and especially emerging diseases, there's a common thread that ties all of them together, and that is the creation of an other and a target of persecution. We saw that with HIV.
As soon as his illness became public, his hometown of Kokomo, Indiana, panicked. Believing that Ryan would infect his classmates with the deadly AIDS virus, the community banned him from school.
Doctors say he hasn't long to live.
I don't want nobody else to get it, and I can see where they're worried. But I mean, if my doctor says it's okay to go back, I don't see no reason why I can't.
Ryan is a hemophiliac and contracted AIDS after a routine blood transfusion. But the school authorities say he's better off at home or in hospital, anywhere, so long as it's not in class.
He died in 1990, and his life was pretty remarkable. This is a kid who was a hemophiliac and got HIV through the blood product that he was using, and was kicked out of his school, and people were scared of him and angry at him. And again, fear was running rampant at that time, and there wasn't understanding of what HIV was and how you could get it and not get it, although that information was out there, but people don't always believe that when there's such a disease that can kill you in the way that HIV did.
They call you a queer or stuff like that. And you get people who throw away your dishes.
Throw away your dishes?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Because, I wouldn't want to eat off somebody else's dish either. And it's been washed, so that's all there is to it.
Ryan died in April 1990, 1 month before he was to graduate from high school. In August of the same year, U.S. Congress enacted the Ryan White Care, or Comprehensive AIDS Resources Emergency Act, which was used to create the Ryan White HIV/AIDS program. This program is still in effect today and provides grant funding across the nation to cover the costs associated with care and medication for lower income individuals living with HIV.
And let me once again say a special thanks to Jeannie White for standing here today. Your fine son became a hero to many of us. He was a brave young man who taught America the truth about AIDS. He helped people all over the world to understand that people with AIDS deserve not only the best medical care, but also our compassion and our love.
In 1991, as awareness across the nation increased, the red ribbon we all know today became the symbol of HIV and AIDS awareness. By 1994, AIDS had become the leading cause of death for all Americans aged 25 to 44. More than 49,000 Americans died from HIV-related illnesses in 1995, an all-time high. The following year, highly active antiretroviral treatment, or HAART, was introduced. This therapy included the use of multiple antiretroviral medications simultaneously to decrease a person's viral load. Due to the introduction of this therapy, deaths from HIV-related illnesses began to decrease, leaving 1995 the deadliest year in HIV/AIDS history in the US. Despite the decrease in deaths from HIV after the approval of HAART, many people were still living with HIV. In the late 1990s, it became apparent that people of color were disproportionately affected by the HIV/AIDS epidemic. In 1995, President Bill Clinton declared AIDS to be a severe and ongoing health crisis in African American and Hispanic Latino communities, and announced special initiatives to reduce the impact of HIV/AIDS in racial and ethnic minority communities.
America is not a blanket, all one color of uncut cloth, all red, or white, or blue. America is a quilt made up of many patches, many pieces, many colors, many sizes, many textures, but everybody fits. Everybody counts. Everybody must have equal protection under the law in the real America.
Pertaining, Charles Schrader, Dick Scott, Robert Bobiolina Watson, Dan Bowers, Francis Brady, Jim Butcher, Tom Cadell, Joe a biker, Lowell, Louis Schneider, Joe A. Castillo, Bill Gassaway,